The Detroit Pistons, they have been irrelevant for a very long time. You want to talk about Tom Gore is a very successful businessman. Tom Gore has a lot of ideas and has for a very long time. He did from time to time put some people around him that had success at different levels around the NBA, and they tried a number of different things and they just could not execute it. And I thought Monty Williams was going to be the answer, if I'm being totally honest. Van Gundy, I didn't think that. Troy Weaver as a GM, there was some issues there. Um, some other Dwayne Casey, I wasn't totally sold on for what the role was, and taking guys from basically nothing, from the scrap heap, not talent wise, but the organization from the scrap heap, from 6 wins, 8 wins, 10 wins, whatever they were, 18, 19 wins. Then you get Cade Cunningham, and then it's an epic collapse again. What you're seeing now is very Lion-esque. It honestly is. Trajan Langdon is the basketball version, essentially, of Brad Holmes. Trajan Langdon was considered, I say was because now he has found this position where he came up the ranks and he was regarded as one of the up and comers, one of the next, quote, architects or geniuses to run an organization. And he has come in here and he took what they had and very smartly put people around them. So we'll look at Cade and Osser, Jalen, Tobias, and Hardaway as your starters. Tobias and Hardaway were not there. These are not world, game breaker type guys, but these are guys that have had success at the professional level. Beasley as well, dude, can shoot the lights out. You put those three guys around other young players like Osser, like Cade, like Ron Holland, who was picked, and that was a stretch. That was a stretch pick. You're looking at developing the guy, and what better way to develop the guy than to put the proper system around him with the proper guys, teach him how to be a pro, and let his talent come out. Have that support mechanism around him, and the guy will grow. They're, as of last night, after getting kind of whooped up on by Denver, 33-27. I mean, they exceeded their win total of the last 3 years a long time ago. And so what you're watching now, and you can see it that they're having fun. Bickerstaff, his dad, Bernie Bickerstaff, I grew up watching as Seattle Supersonics and others. Seattle Supersonics for you young people. Just a terrific coach. And his son, JB, might be a better coach than his father. And what he's done with the talent that he's been given and the way that they are developing as a core group, youth surrounded by experience and some veteran leadership, and then you continue to add to that mix, you're looking at something really special, guys. You're looking at, I'm not saying that they're Oklahoma City. I would consider Oklahoma City to be the best young team in the NBA. They have talent all over the place, and they've had to encounter or endure a lot of injuries, and they haven't really had their full complement, for the whole entire stretch like you would expect. But they're still, 25 games or 27 games over 500 and are a legitimate shot to win the NBA title. So I'm not putting the Pistons in their class. They're not there yet. The Pistons don't have the depth to compete with a team like that. Even if you say that Beasley and Isaiah Stewart and Ron Holland are your top three off the bench, you're not deep enough. You're not good enough. You're not deep enough. So it's a step. It's a step in the right direction. It's a step away from mediocrity to average to good to excellent to, above that. They're in that process, and it's something special. So for basketball fans, which there seems to be fewer and fewer, and I'll get to that in a moment, fewer and fewer happening. But I know this is fun for the Detroit fans to watch the Pistons evolve in front of our eyes. And if you really watch, and I don't know, how many or what percentage of you out there really follow the things, but if you see the clips of them in the locker room and coming down the hallway before they ever enter the floor, some of the dancing they're doing, you can see that it's a tight-knit group that comes from coaching and leadership, and then that comes from within the group itself. to be able to do something like that, to where it's not, arrogant, it's not cocky, it's not overconfidence, but they're legitimately having fun. They enjoy being around each other. And anyone who's ever led a team, if you don't have that culture, if you don't have that enjoyment, around your group, and it's a dread to come to work, then that toxicity builds, and then you really struggle to have something, regardless of how much talent is in the room. So I think everybody knows what their role is. I think that started from the top, and Trajan Langdon is absolutely probably a top two or three young general manager for sure in basketball. And I think what we'll see prove out and show out is that he's going to be one of the most successful general managers or director of basketball operations. It's kind of one and the same for him. I think you're going to see him be one of the most successful, sought after, talked about GMs in all of sport. He came up through the ranks in Duke, and like as a player under Krzyzewski, and then got great, tutelage at the NBA level, and now it's his opportunity to shine. And I think he's doing exactly that. So they've got my attention. 8-year basketball coach myself. It's just like you watch what they're doing and look at a guy like Oscar Thompson. You're watching development of a player like that, and you're seeing development not just because it's the athlete developing, okay, just the natural evolution of a player. You're watching the system. You're watching the people around him. You're watching the coaching around him that is contributing to that, and he's accelerating quickly. Things that he's doing he couldn't do last year, and it's like a significant jump. This is what coaches like. You're obsessed with getting improvement at a rapid level, and you look at a guy like that, and it's like, wow, this is really. And his brother's the same way. His brother might be a click ahead of him. Amen, Thompson. But it's like to watch him do some of the things he's doing is really special. And once he develops a mid-range game, he's not going to be stopped. And for you longtime Pistons fans, if there's somebody that you could compare him to, is similarly, it's not exact, but similarly to Tayshaun Prince. Tayshaun was longer. Tayshaun was a specialist, and Tayshaun developed a mid and even a long range game to go along with his defensive attributes and his ability to kind of get down low, thin frame like that. I think Osser projects to be a better player than Tayshaun. More of the 6'6", 6'7", and Prince was 6'9", with a wingspan of over 7 foot. Osser is the real deal. The dude is insane in transition. He's a defensive stopper. He can play defense on the ball. He can play defense off the ball. He's just a guy that's always there. He can run the floor in transition. He's not really the guy to take the ball in transition, but running the lanes and finishing and a rim runner type of guy, my gosh, he has all the skills to be an all-star in this league. So Jalen Duran, much the same. Tobias, obviously we had him before, got him back. Hardaway, Cade, again, I take full responsibility. I was wrong on Cade Cunningham. I thought he was a floater at Oklahoma State. I thought he was a floater. I thought he was lazy. I thought he was disinterested. And I watched a lot of Oklahoma State games with him, and I saw that. I saw that with my own eyes, and I'm trained to see that. And I didn't like what I saw. And it's like he didn't care. I'll be honest. And I think if you had an honest conversation with him, I think he would probably admit that there were times where he didn't take it as seriously as he should have. It's too obvious to a trained eye to understand what it was then and what it is now. You don't just automatically, turn it on and turn it off like that. And so I had my doubts. Now you see him at the pro level, and it's like, not only does he have the ability that they thought he had, I think he has more ability. And I think he's already evolved quite a bit. He's able to do more than when they drafted him. But it's the way that he's doing it. He has all the skills. He has the long range game, the mid range game, the ability to finish at the rim. Most people, like, it is even at the NBA level. It is most people do not have the ability to do that. To finish at all three levels, long range, mid range, and at the rim with contact with both hands, really hard to do. He can do all the other things too. He can get out on the break. He can obviously his assists, he's averaging approaching near a triple double. So he can absolutely positively lead this team to greatness. I think he's leading himself to greatness. I think there's some type of switch that went off for him and he said, I can't be that guy from before. I have to be this guy. And I am the face of this franchise and I need to take it to new levels. And a lot of guys crack under that pressure. He hasn't. And I think so much credit has to be given to him in the way that he's conducted himself, in the way that he has led that organization and that team, and what he went through, by the way. He's been around what? This is his fourth year? You know, it was bad. Really, really, really bad. So bad. And when you're the number one pick, in any league, generally there's a reason you're the number one pick because where you're going has a number one pick because they're not very good. Sometimes that a team strategically moves draft assets and they're able to get somebody's conditional pick based on this and that, and a really good team could pick at number one. That's happened before, but the Pistons, excuse me, picking at number one were awful. And he entered an awful situation. There's been so much changeover, so many coaches, so much instability. Now there's stability. And now you're seeing him flourish, and that's great to see. And if you're a basketball fan, if you're a Piston fan, NBA fan, this is great to see the Pistons' relevance. I think we've only seen the beginning of it, and there is a lot more to come. They will evolve together. They've got a terrific young coach who, by the way, he's evolved too. This isn't his first stop. He's had multiple stops. He's now fully out of his dad's shadow, and he's getting it done. And it's probably, without knowing all the background detail, he probably has an amazing relationship with Trajan. I think they're on the same page. And again, if you want to take the football analogy, Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes, it is a match made in heaven. Philosophically, culture-wise, how they fit, how they think, the competitiveness, I think you see that now with Bickerstaff and with Trajan Langdon. So congrats to the Pistons on these massive next steps. 33-27 is real. They're not going to win an NBA championship this year or next year. Don't get it twisted, but they are a competitive team. They beat the Celtics the other night. It would have been nice to see them perform better at against Denver, but that happens. They're playing with everybody and they're competitive with everybody. I'd like to see better defensively, but that's the whole league.